For more on Zuckerberg's testimony and Facebook's future, I'm joined by Amy Zalman. She's the founder of the Strategic Narrative Institute and an adjunct professor of strategic foresight at Georgetown University. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
So let's start with your reaction to Zuckerberg's testimony in front of U.S. lawmakers. What did you make of that?
I don't think he said much. He said four things. He said, I'm sorry, this is my responsibility. He said, we're going to stop fake users. We're not going to have those anymore. He said, we're going to limit the reach of apps, and we're going to pay more attention and do some actual things to increase the transparency of private data and the control that users have over it. To me, that kept the focus on other actors and off of Facebook. So I thought it was a pretty adept and agile move by him.
Now let's look at that responsibility, because Facebook has come a long way from being this creation in a student dorm at Harvard University. What has the company morphed into now compared to where it started?
Well, it's morphed into exactly what the law permits it to morph into, which is a site that offers a very business-minded and efficiency-minded country tremendous opportunities to connect and shop and do other things efficiently online, and which basically harvests that data and sells it to advertisers.
Now, with so much data already on Facebook, has it become essentially too big to fail?
It may be, but I'm not sure that's because there's so much data on it. It's because there's a reluctance on the part of American policymakers to truly regulate the use of private data.
And it certainly is a very gray area. I know that Facebook was saying that that's one of their challenges in really trying to determine where that line should be. So let's look at the fallout from the Cambridge Analytica scandal. Now, this wasn't your traditional data breach per se. It was more about the lack of judgment or oversight by Facebook into how its data was used, its user data was used, about 87 million people roughly. So what do you think this scandal means for the company's value long term?
Long term, I think it's in a great shape. I mean, that's a very cynical response. But frankly, Facebook can say clearly that it didn't do anything illegal. It did something that we don't feel good about because it didn't touch us as consumers, it touched us as citizens, and it touched a political nerve and a political campaign. So that's not good, but that's also something that could go away quickly. Outside of that, they're left with absolutely no incentives provided by anyone to do anything but continue what they're doing. So I would say that their path looks pretty sunny. Other things may intervene along the way that change that path.
Now, what about some of the tighter regulations and the tighter policies that they said they were going to have on businesses and sort of the way that people advertise on there? Do you see that affecting their revenue stream?
Not really. I mean, they're going to give us users more opportunity to see more clearly and more easily how to control our own data. So that's all good. But the fact is, we'll still continue to share it. And the path toward collecting more and more data is wide open because we have more and more sort of portals, I'm pointing to my fingers, like biometric data, to give and to be taken.
Now, let's also look at Facebook's global ambitions, its efforts to expand into other countries, as well as its other revenue streams that it's trying to explore. How do you see that progressing, especially in light of the increased scrutiny that we're seeing on the company?
Well, they have the easy answer to that has to do with the GDPR, with the upcoming highly restrictive, compared to American, use by any company of private data. So Europe has said something different than the United States. It said the private data of a person belongs to that person. And so they're going to have to, like every other company in the world that processes or uses data, they're going to have to adhere to that. So that's definitely a clear impingement.
Now, what sort of opportunities or perhaps lessons can other companies, like you have your Snapchats, your Ubers, they all create these large amounts of data. What sort of opportunities or challenges do you think this highlights for them?
Probably two. One is that it probably behooves some of them to be good citizens, to really think if they have responsible and thoughtful CEOs, how can we start to really not just self-regulate, but have a real dialogue with people, with all the people that are our users, with advertisers and campaigns, and with policymakers, so that we set up a system that works for us in this country. So that's one. The other is that if you have great ambitions and you're looking on from California tonight or elsewhere, I'd say that you feel pretty good. You're watching Facebook stock go up, and you're watching him really not suffer too many repercussions from his testimony, at least so far.